Okay, I am recording today's lesson just because we'll only get through part of it, but those people who aren't here then can pick up the beginning. So our objectives today, we're going to talk about what simple interest is and some other terms related to simple interest. We'll practice calculating it. We may get through these first two objectives today, we may not. Tomorrow we'll be graphing simple interest and making comparisons using simple interest. Okay, so objective one is just defining simple interest and related terms. Our formula for simple interest, this is one of those things where we have a formula, we have to plug numbers into it, is this. It's I stands for simple interest equals P times R times T. And down here I'm going to tell you what all that means. So I stands for interest. More specifically, it's simple interest. There's something else called compound interest. You can't find that this way. So I stands for interest, P stands for the principal, and we're going to talk about what that is in a second. R stands for rate, and T stands for time.
Classes are going to report from 24 today. Again, all of this is finished classes are going to report from 24 today.
Now, when you take the PSSAs, this is a formula that they're going to give you. So you'll have this. You don't have to memorize the formula, but I don't believe they tell you what the letters stand for. You do have to know what they stand for. So when you look at the formula, you have to know what to do with the numbers. Principal is something that can either be paid or earned. Can anyone give me an example or tell me what interest is? Anna?
Isn't it like when you save money in a bank for so long, the bank gives you more money or they give more money?
Yeah. Well, either way, you kind of answered both. If you deposit money into a bank, you earn interest on that money. The interest rate is usually really pathetic. It's usually like 0.2% or something like that, which is not much at all. 0.2% has not been converted to a decimal, so that's really 0.002. It's really, really low. They don't pay you a lot. But if you invest in something like the stock market, often you get a higher percentage rate for your money. So you can earn interest by depositing your money in a bank. You also have to pay interest sometimes. Can anyone tell me an instance in which you may have to pay interest? Bella?
If you get a loan and you pay it back, or like, and the amount of time it takes you might have to pay more.
Right. So when you get a loan, the bank does not give you that money for free. You have to pay them to let you use the money. So you have to pay interest. Also, if you use credit cards, you are borrowing money from the credit card company to make your purchases. And if you don't pay them off at the end of the month, you have to pay interest on your credit cards. And that's how a lot of people get themselves into a lot of credit card debt, because the interest rate on a credit card is really high. And so you end up paying a lot more for something than you would normally. Two big things that people pay interest on are car loans and house loans. Pretty much everybody ends up taking out a house loan. There are very few people who can just buy a house outright. Almost everybody has what's called a mortgage, which means you owe the bank a lot of money. And you end up paying the bank so much in order to borrow the money. You pay almost as much as the house was worth, or sometimes more, over the course of the loan because you pay for so long. Cars, most people end up with car payments too. You have to borrow money to buy a car. That's a little easier. Some people are really good about saving and pay cash, but I'm not one of them. I have a car payment. Principal is the amount that you borrow or deposit. So say I was going to buy a car and my car cost $11,000 and I'm going to borrow $11,000. That's my principal. Okay? Deposit is how much you put in. So say you have $500 worth of money that you've saved up. You decide you're going to want to put it in the bank. The $500 is your principal. The rate is the percentage that you either pay or earn. Missing from my thing. Percentage you pay or earn. So let's look at how that works out. Here's an example. You borrow $3,000 for 5 years at an annual interest rate of 4%. How much will you pay in simple interest? Well, every time I do this, I'm going to write down the formula just so I make sure I'm plugging everything in right. So the first thing I'm going to do is write my formula. Then underneath the formula, I'm going to fill in for each letter, I'm going to put what I know. So I borrow $3,000. Michael, what is that? Is that the I, the P, the R, or the T?
The R.
No, R stands for rate, and that's not the rate. Nathan? It's the P. This is the principal. The amount that you borrow or the amount that you deposit in case of depositing is our principal. So the 3,000 is our P, so I'm going to put that in there. 3,000. 5 years, what would that go to? David? No, it's not the rate. The rate is a percentage. T. 5 years is the amount of time that it takes. Okay, so I'm going to multiply that. Let's see, I'm going to have my rate in here. I'm going to have my time over here, which is 5 years. Okay, it says we have an annual interest rate of 4%. That's my rate. That's the last one that I need to fill in. When I put that in as my rate, what do you think I need to do to it first? Bella? Change it into a decimal. So I have 4%. My decimal is here. I'm going to go back 2 places. So it's going to become 0.04. That's what I'm going to put in. And what I'm finding is the interest. There are occasionally problems where they tell you how much interest and you have to tell the principal. So there are times when we have to put this in a different order. Most of them are not that way. Most of them are straightforward like this. Okay, now definitely use a calculator for problems like this because you're likely to make errors if you're doing it all by hand. I highly advocate doing as much as you can by hand most of the time so you get practice. But check your work on the calculator if you do that. There were a few problems on the last quiz that you guys turned in where a few people did all their work by hand and ended up getting it wrong because they did the right thing, but they just made an arithmetic error. So you want to check it with the calculator if you're choosing to do it by hand. 3,000 times 0.04 times 5 equals 600. So the answer is $600. So you're going to pay that much in interest over the course of the loan. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, the next 2 are 2 for you to try. The first one is just another basic one, just like this. The next one is a challenge that asks how much you would save over the course of the loan if you could get an interest rate of 5.75%. So you may discuss, once you finish the easy one, you may discuss with your neighbors in your desk set how you think you should approach the challenge.